Hey, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist, and today we're going to be doing a Chemicritter deck profile. So I'm really excited this week guys, because this is a very interesting Gemini-based archetype that can do some really insane plays, all the way from going in for OTKs to being able to control the board and summon out some insane amounts of Gemini monsters to your side of the field. So without further ado guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can become part of the notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below for all those awesome awards like getting your name searched for every single video, getting a signed card to the mail, and even getting to request a deck profile every single month to your patron along with test hands. So without further ado, let's get straight on into this. So first off, we're going to be playing 3 copies of Chemicritter Ogre. This card is a really good card in the deck. It is a 2800 beat stick in the deck, and it has the following effect: that all Gemini monsters share this ability. If you guys are unfamiliar with Gemini monsters, what they do is they are treated as normal monsters while facing them on the field or in the graveyard. And what this card is a normal monster on the field, you can normal summon it to have it gain its additional effects. Now there are cards in the deck that will instantly give it its effects, but normally you have to normal summon your Gemini monsters to be able to give them their effects. So this card's particular effects are, when it does get them, is the normal summon of a Gemini monster cannot be negated, and once per turn you can banish a Gemini monster from your graveyard to target a card your opponent controls and destroy it, which is pretty good to just be able to pop a card on the field. We then play 3 copies of Chemicritter Hydreigon. Hydreigon is really cool because it has the ability that when another Gemini monster is normal summoned, you can make that monster gain 500 attack, or if a Gemini monster you control would be destroyed by a card effect, you can destroy one other card you control instead, which is pretty good just to be able to pop a different card so you can keep the cards that you want on the field as long as you want them. We then play 3 copies of Hawk as well. Hydron Hawk is really good too in the deck because it has the ability to be able to discard a card to be able to target a Gemini monster in your graveyard and special summon it in defense position, which is really good just to be able to revive those cards back to your side of the field. We then play 3 copies of Carbo Crab. Carbo Crab is probably my favorite of them all. It has the ability that during the main phase you can send a Gemini monster from your deck to the graveyard, then add a Gemini monster from your deck to your hand, which is really good to have you a searcher in this deck, and Carbo Crab just will grab those cards really fast. We then play 3 copies of Oxyox. Oxyox has a really neat effect as well that has the ability to, during the main phase, special summon 1 Gemini monster in hand, and if you do, all Gemini monsters you currently control become their original level until the end of the turn, which is really cool to be able to just make them all their original level, because you're going to give them a lot of synergy to go into some really good plays to be able to do that. We also have a single copy of Dark Storm Dragon. I just play 1 copy of this card because it has a really good Gemini effect to once per turn send 1 face-up spell trap you control to the graveyard and destroy all spells and traps on the field, which is really good just to be able to just completely board wipe all the spells and traps. And this card looks awesome as well for the artwork. And then we play 3 copies of Ash Blossom as well to round out the monsters, because the 3 copies of Ash Blossom have the ability to basically just stop your opponent from touching the deck, which is a really good effect. So that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get into the spells. So for the spells, we're going to be playing 3 copies of Pot of Extravagance. The Pot of Extravagance help out the deck a lot because they are going to let you dig into the deck to grab cards that you're going to need out of the deck, because you have to get to your field spell in this particular deck. Which, speaking of the field spell, we play a single copy of Terraforming because you're trying to get to the field spell as quickly as possible in this deck. We then play 3 copies of the new card that we got out of Dawn of Majesty, which is a really good card. It lets us grab from our deck to our hand a Catalyst Field from our deck to our hand, or a Burnout or a Chemicritter monster from our deck to our hand, which is really good to be able to just add our Catalyst Field from deck to hand, or add a Burnout and a Chemicritter from our deck to our hand. It also has a really good effect to be able to banish this card from the graveyard to target 2 face-up monsters you control, including a Gemini monster that's treated as an effect monster, and it has gains its effect until the end of the turn, and make 1 monster that you control gain attack that has 0 attack, and if you do, this second monster gains the attack of the monster that it lost, which is pretty good to be able to increase the attack of one of your monsters to give it just that extra boost. We then play 3 copies of Catalyst Field to round out the spells. Catalyst Field is an extremely important card in this deck, because what this card is basically going to do is it's going to let you each turn normal summon 1 Gemini monster onto your side of the field without tributing, which is really good for this deck. And then during your main phase, you can normal summon a Gemini monster in addition to your normal summoner set as well, which gives you an additional normal summon, which helps you go into some really good plays. And then once per turn, you can target 1 monster your opponent controls and banish 1 Gemini monster you control, and that monster is treated as an effect monster and has its gained its effects until the end phase turn, and if you do, destroy that card, which is really good to be able to just pop cards on the field, gives you additional normal summons. It's just an overall fantastic card for Gemini decks. So that's it for the spells, guys. Let's get into the traps. So for the traps, we're going to be playing 2 copies of Necrofusion. This card is really good in the deck. It's going to help you go into some really good fusion plays. You get to fusion summon a monster from your extra deck by banishing cards from your graveyard face down, but that monster can't attack this turn, which is not the big a deal because you're usually going to summon it during your opponent's end phase anyways. We then play 3 copies of Burnout. Burnout is an awesome, and I mean awesome, trap card for this deck. It lets you banish face of Chemicritter monster you control to special summon 2 Chemicritter monsters from your deck with different names from each other, and then when your opponent declares a direct attack, except turn this card was sent to the graveyard, then you can banish this card from your graveyard and then target one of your banished Gemini monsters and special summon it, and if you do, it becomes an effect monster and gains its effects, which is really good to just give you that monster back on your side of the field so you can gain its effects and get some really good plays rolling. But also getting 2 monsters on your side of the field is just really, really important. We then played 3 copies of Gemini Annihilation. This card is really good as well because it lets you, during the main phase, discard 1 card, and then you get to activate one of these effects to either special summon 1 Gemini monster from your deck as an effect monster and it gains its effect, or tribute 1 Gemini monster, and if you do, special summon 1 Fire Warrior monster from your hand or deck, and then if you tributed a Gemini monster that was treated as an effect monster, you can also destroy a card on the field. But you're mainly just going to use the effect to special summon 1 Gemini monster from your deck as an effect monster, which is really, really helpful for this deck to be able to tag them in and out for your different plays. We then play 3 copies of There Can Only Be One because every single one of your Gemini monsters is a different type, which is really cool to be able to go into. Like, for example, your copy of Chemicritter Diox Ogre is a fiend. Your copy of the High Dragon is obviously a dragon. Your Hawk is a winged beast. Your copies of your Carbon Crab or Aquas, which comes in play in the extract, and your copy of Oxyox or Beasts, which is really important to go into this deck because you're going to have a lot of different plays with There Can Be Only One because it's just going to stop your opponent from doing all sorts of shenanigans against you and help you control the board, because this deck swarms really like a lot, but you do want to be able to control your opponent's board where they can't go into some really crazy play. So each player can only control 1 monster of each type, and then you have to send the rest of the cards to the graveyard that are the same typing. So if you have 2 zombies on the field, you have to control only 1 zombie, so you have to pick one of them and send them to the graveyard, which is important to keep in mind as you play this deck. So that's it for the traps, guys. Let's get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, since it is a Pot of Extravagance deck, you're playing a lot of 2s and 3s of, so I will say if there's anything in here that you want to add into it, you totally can as a 2 or 3 of by just dropping 1 or 2 of the other cards. So we're going to be opening up with 3 copies of the Chemicritter XZ monster. This card is very, very important for the deck and is an actually insanely good XZ monster in this deck. So what this card does is it takes 2 level 8 Gemini monsters to XZ summon into this card. And then when this card is XZ summoned, you get to target a Gemini monster in your graveyard and special summon it. So basically it just gives you a free XZ summon, or you XZ summon this card to your side of the field, then it gives you one of the materials if you want, or not one of the materials, but another level 8 monster on the field that's a really powerful card if you want it. It also has the ability, while this card has XZ materials on it, your opponent controls, or your opponent can not target Gemini monsters you control for attacks, and also your opponent cannot target Gemini monsters you control with card effects either. And then when a Gemini monster is normal summoned, you can detach a material of this card to make your opponent send a card from their hand or field to the graveyard, and it's their choice, which is an extremely powerful effect for this particular card. And then play a same copy of number 97. Number 97 helps out the deck a lot because you can go into some really insane plays. I play it in here as a 1 of. You can bump it up to 2 if you want to, but I just like it as a 1. You detach a material, you special summon out 2 dragon, or you special summon out 2 number monsters to your side of the field. You use 1 to overlay with the other one. So it's a really powerful card, but usually you're just going for this card, so these are all just tech cards from here out. The number 38 is really good because it negates spells. Number 100 because it can go in for a 9,000 swing, which is really, really good. And then a same copy of number 92. I will say you can, if you want to, drop the number 92 for another 97. If you want to not play this card, I like it because it's a really good defensive card because it can get you some really nice plays in the deck. But if you don't want to, you totally can drop it. We then play a same copy of Double A Zeus because Double A Zeus helps you board wipe, which is really nice. And then I played Double Totally Awesome as well. Double Totally Awesome is a card that I really would would recommend you play in this deck, because you can actually use Carbon Crab to go into this because it's an Aqua monster, to make this card to give you some additional negations on the field. We then play 3 copies of First of the Dragons, because all your Gemini monsters count as normal monsters while they're in the graveyard and on the field, which is really good until they're normal summon, which even when they touch the graveyard, even if they're normal summon, they count as normal monsters while in the graveyard, which is really cool about this card, because Necrofusion comes into play, and this card has the ability that you must fusion summon this card and cannot be special summoned by other ways, but it has some really neat effects as well, that basically it cannot be destroyed by battle, except by battle with a normal monster, and it's unaffected by other monster effects as well. So it's really a good card to be able to just stop your opponent, throw it in defense position, and your opponent's going to have to use some really good resources to out this card. I then play 3 copies of the Gemini Fusion monster. This card's really good too. It makes all Gemini monsters treated as effect monsters. I just play 2 of it because it's a little bit of a weak card, because it just has 2200, 2200. I wish it was a little bit bigger and I would play 3 copies of it. I bumped it down from the previous build from 3 to 2 because I wanted to play other cards like Totally Awesome in here and Double A Zeus. But this card comes in pretty handy to be able to help you get your monsters as effect monsters as soon as they touch the field, just by using your copy of Necrofusion. So that's it for the deck, guys. I hope you did enjoy it. It's a really interesting deck. It's very, very budget outside like the extra deck cards, which these 4 can be interchanged for other cards that you want to play, which is totally fine. You can change them out for some Link cards. You can change them out for like some Nightmare Phoenixes and Unicorns if you want to go that route. It's totally up to you what you change them out for if you're going for a more budget build. But it's a really fun deck. I hope you guys give this deck a try, because it is a super fun, cool deck to be able to play around with. And don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, guys. Hit the bell in there so you can become part of the notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down the description below for all those awesome awards, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.